and video. Right? Sachin Pujari, Abhinandan Shirhatti, Abhishek Kagwad, Akshata Ashok Belvi, Anand Kyabani, Anjum Biradar, Baswaraj Gadkari, Baswaraj Ainapuri, okay. Bhagyashree Math, next. Bhakti Baswadkar,
Present, sir.
okay. Bharti Hadimani,
Present, sir.
right. Chetan Kumar Suldal, Deepak Jamdar, Divya Kulkarni,
Yes, sir.
okay. Gad Pratmesh Shivaji, Jyoti Olekar,
Present, sir.
okay.
Present, sir.
Right. Kiran Ligade, Lakshmikant Kaloji, Mantesh Patil, Nagesh Dodshivanor, okay. Nandish,
Present, sir.
okay. Pooja Patil,
Present, sir.
right. Pramod Kumar Hunshar,
Yes, sir.
right. Praveen Magdum,
Sir.
okay.
Present, sir.
Okay. Priyanka, Sandhya,
Yes, sir.
okay. Santosh Pujari, Santosh Sonar, Shahbaz Mullah,
Present, sir.
okay.
Present, sir.
Right. Shafia Jagdal, Sridhar Solkarnawar,
Yes, sir.
Srishti Barmannawar, Siddharth Varnekar,
Present, sir.
right. Siddharth Patil,
Present, sir.
Supriya,
Present, sir.
okay.
Present, sir.
Right. Vandana,
Present, sir.
okay. Vasant,
Yes, sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vedadatta,
Present, sir.
Vedadatta is there? Okay. Vedadatta,
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
right. Yogesh,
Yes, sir.
okay. Mahesh, Balish, okay. Balish is there? Taik Mohammed,
Present, sir.
Praveen Rathod,
Yes, sir.
right. Abhishek Palekar,
Present, sir.
right. Aishwarya Bugdi Katti,
Present, sir.
Okay. Amanullah. Just inform Amanullah, he has not yet turned up for the classes. Just inform him. Bandodkar Tanay Mohandas. Baurav More. Baurav. Desai Shodhan Ashok.
Present, sir.
Okay.
Present.
Okay. Devanawar. Anil Kumar Shekhappa.
Present, sir. Present, sir.
Okay. Nand Kumar Patil. Nand Kumar. Pramod Kesti.
Present, sir.
Pramod Kesti.
Present, sir.
Okay. Rohini Paule.
Present, sir.
Okay. Rohit Alwani. Shashidhar Gaudar. Just inform Rohit and Shashidhar, they have not yet turned up for the classes. Just inform them. Ask them to attend the classes regularly. Sridhar
Yes, sir.
Badige.
Present, sir.
Okay. Right. We'll start with the class. Today's class will be the revision class of what all we have covered today. Right. Nobody should leave the group in between. Right.
Yes, sir.
So I feel like somebody are leaving the group in between. You should take care that nobody should leave the group in between. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see the screen, students? Screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Okay, fine. We started with the definition of microprocessor. How to define microprocessor, students? Definition of microprocessor? Yes. A microprocessor is a general purpose digital chip commonly used as CPU of a computer system. It is used as central processing unit of a computer system. Then we saw the block diagram of microprocessor, which consists of the microprocessor, which is the processing unit or the processing block. This microprocessor consists of the ALU, arithmetical and logical unit for arithmetical and logical operations, registers for storing the data, and control unit to control the movement of the data between the memory and the input and output devices. On the other side, you can see the input and output devices, right? IO devices. Then we have the system bus. System bus consists of two types of sets of electrical signal. One is the data bus, another one is the address bus, right? Data bus carries the data information, and address bus carries the address information. RAM memory. Here, this block meant to store the information. It is temporary memory. It is volatile memory, right? ROM memory is a permanent memory, but we can only read the data from the ROM memory. Fine. User who needs a general purpose microprocessor must add other blocks such as RAM, ROM, IO ports, and timer to make it functional. Only microprocessor block will not be sufficient. We require some other accessories, some other peripherals, other extra blocks such as RAM, ROM, IO ports, and timers to make the microprocessor, to make it functional, to make it completely working. Hence, microprocessor is not a true computer on a chip. Microprocessor is not called as true computer on a chip, whereas microcontroller is called as a true computer on a chip. A small or very large system can be configured using the CPU of the microprocessor. That means that microprocessor is flexible. You can add other blocks. You can make it a smaller system, or you can add few more blocks and make it a larger system, right? So that is the advantage of the microprocessor. It is flexible. Instruction set of microprocessor is mainly processing intensive. Instructions of microprocessor are mainly meant to perform the processing operations. Microprocessor is commonly used as the CPU in computer system to perform the task of processing the information. This is the block diagram of computer. We are all familiar with the block diagram of computer. It consists of input devices such as keyboard, mouse, output devices such as CRT, display screen, right? In between block is the CPU, which consists of arithmetic and logical unit, ALU, control unit to control the data movement between the memory and the IO devices. Then the memory unit, which may be a RAM memory or the ROM memory. This is the block diagram of computer. Then coming to the definition of microcontroller. A microcontroller is defined as a true computer on a chip. What it indicates, what it means? It means that it not only includes the microprocessor or the CPU, but also has other blocks such as RAM, ROM, IO port, timer, and serial COM port, all present on a single chip. That is why microcontroller is called as true computer on a chip. Clear? This is the definition of microcontroller. Then later, we dealt with comparison between microprocessor and microcontroller. The first one that you are seeing is the microprocessor. It consists of CPU and other blocks. You can see they are external to the CPU. Right? They are connected outside the CPU in microprocessor. In microcontroller that you are seeing in the below figure, you can see CPU, RAM, ROM, IO port, timer, and serial COM port. All are present on a single chip. Right? CPU, RAM, ROM, IO port, timer, and serial COM port all are present on a single IC. A microcontroller consists of all features of microprocessor, CPU, and also adds other features such as ROM, RAM, IO port, serial COM port, and timer. Hence, microcontroller is called a true computer on a chip. What is the job of microcontroller? It is specific and control oriented. It is mainly meant to control the operations, whereas microprocessor is mainly meant to process the information. The instruction set of microcontroller is mainly meant to control the inputs and outputs. Some of the instructions manipulate the individual bits. There are few instructions in microcontroller that are meant to change the single bits, that are used to read single bit stored in a single bit memory location or to write into the single bit memory location. Microcontroller is commonly used to control the action of devices. It is mainly the controlling device. Then coming to the comparison between microprocessor and microcontroller. In examination, every time they are asking the comparison between either microprocessor and microcontroller or Princeton and Harvard architecture, that is von Neumann and Harvard architecture comparison, or they ask the comparison between RISC and CISC. Right? So these questions they are usually asking in the examination, the comparison of these. Microprocessor and microcontroller. It is general purpose digital chip. Microprocessor is general purpose digital chip. Microcontroller is true computer on a chip. Microprocessor consists of ALU, general purpose registers, stack pointer, program counter, clock timing circuit, and interrupt circuits. Whereas microcontroller has circuit of microprocessor and other blocks are connected all on a single chip. Microprocessor meant for processing the information, microcontroller for controlling the applications. Microprocessor instructions are mainly process intensive processing operations. Microcontroller instructions are control oriented. They are meant to mainly for controlling the devices. Many instructions there are to move data between memory and CPU in microprocessor. There are few instructions to move the data between memory and CPU in microcontroller. In microprocessor, there are few bit handling instructions. In microcontroller, there are many bit handling instructions, handling the single bits. For those handling the single bits, instructions are more in microcontroller, whereas there are less instructions in microprocessor. In microprocessor, single memory map for both code and data. There is a single memory block for accessing code and data in microprocessor, whereas there are separate memory and memory map for code and data. That is, code memory is different in microcontroller and data memory is different. Less number of pins are multifunctional in microprocessor. That is, there are few pins which are having more than one function in microprocessor, but the number of pins which are having more than one function are more in microcontroller. Then coming to the architectures, there are two types of architectures mainly, von Neumann architecture and Harvard architecture. Von Neumann architecture is also called as Princeton architecture. Von Neumann architecture is also called Princeton architecture, and second architecture is the Harvard architecture. So these architectures are decided based on how the code and data are stored in memory. The first one is the von Neumann architecture. Here you can see program and data memory is a single memory block. Program and data memory is a single memory block wherein the data and the code, the data and the instructions are stored in a single memory block. There is no separate program memory and data memory in von Neumann architecture. And there are data bus and address bus that fetches the data from the single block of program and data memory. It is a computer architecture in which program and data are stored in common memory space. Von Neumann architecture or Princeton architecture is a memory in which program and data are stored in single memory space. A common bus is used for accessing both instructions and data. There is a single bus, both address and data single bus for accessing both instructions and data. Next, comparison between von Neumann and Harvard architecture. First figure that you are seeing is the von Neumann architecture in which there is a single memory block, and the second one is the Harvard architecture in which data memory and program memory are separate memory blocks. Okay? This is the advantage of the Harvard architecture, that the data can be fetched both from data memory and program memory simultaneously, because separate memory is present for data and separate memory for storing the instructions, that is program memory. Harvard architecture is a computer architecture in which code and data are stored in separate memory spaces. Harvard architecture is the architecture in which code and data are stored in separate memory space. It also has separate data bus and instruction bus. Data bus and instruction bus are separate for data memory and for program memory. Next, we saw the comparison between von Neumann and Harvard architecture, which are the different features of von Neumann, and comparison of these features with the features of Harvard architecture. Von Neumann uses single memory space. Harvard has separate program and data memory. Von Neumann, there is a single bus. In Harvard architecture, there are separate buses for data memory and code memory or program memory. In von Neumann, not possible to fetch code and data simultaneously. In Harvard architecture, it is possible to read the data and the instructions from data memory and code memory simultaneously. In von Neumann architecture, execution of instruction takes more machine cycles because it is single memory block. To read the instructions and then the data, or the data and the instructions reading and writing, will consume more time, will take more machine cycles, okay, clock cycles. Whereas in Harvard architecture, execution of instruction takes less cycles because there are two memory blocks. In von Neumann architecture, it is sequential execution. As data and code are present in a single memory block, it is sequential execution. Whereas in Harvard architecture, it is parallel execution. Data and the code can be accessed simultaneously. In von Neumann architecture, the design is simple because it is a single memory block. In Harvard architecture, design is complex and costly because there are two separate memory blocks. In von Neumann architecture, there is possibility of accidental corruption of data because data can mix up with the address, as there is a single memory block in von Neumann architecture. But this possibility is not there in Harvard architecture. The data cannot mix up with the address information because for the data there is a data memory and for the instructions there is a program memory. Computers based on von Neumann architecture are called control flow computers, whereas computers based on Harvard architectures are called data flow computers. Examples of von Neumann architecture are 8085 microprocessor and MC 68000 Motorola, okay, 68000, and Harvard architecture examples are 8051 microcontroller and MC 68040 microcontroller. Next, we have seen RISC and CISC processor. There are two ways to design the control unit of CPU. By this time, you might have understood what is a control unit of CPU. Tell me, students, what is a control unit of CPU? Yes, what is a control unit of CPU? What it does? Anyone? Control unit of CPU? Any one of you all can answer. What is the function of control unit of CPU? Yes? Function of control unit of CPU? Yes, please. Anybody can answer. What does the control unit of CPU do? Or tell me what is a control unit? You have studied this in your first year level when studying the C language, correct? Control unit. What does it do?
Sir, it handles the logical commands.
Very good. So control unit is meant for, that is mainly to control the data transmission between the memory and the IO devices. Okay, the instructions sending between memory and the IO devices, right? Or the memory and CPU, sending the instructions and the data between memory and CPU. All this is handled by the control unit of central processing unit. Clear? For designing this control unit of central processing unit, there are two ways. There are two methods. One is the hardware method, another one is the software method. And based on this hardware and software method, there are two types of processors, or there are two types of processor architectures. Right? One is called as the RISC architecture, another one is called the CISC architecture. Clear? Features of RISC. Reduced instruction set computer. Expansion of RISC is reduced instruction set computer. RISC uses hardware approach. As I told, hardware approach means the control signals necessary for the control unit are generated by electronic circuit of the control unit. All control signals required for the execution of the instructions by the CPU are generated by the electronic circuit of the control unit. That means for every instruction, there is an electronic circuit in the control unit to generate necessary control signals. Then what are the features of RISC? Features of reduced instruction set computer. So the name itself tells us reduced instruction set. The number of instructions in RISC architecture are less. Okay, they are simple instructions, has less number of addressing modes, limited number of addressing modes, right? Then it uses multiple register sets. The number of register sets are more. Register set is consisting of few number of registers. A set can consist of say 8 registers or 4 registers, like that. Cache memory is a memory which is a fast memory. The repeated operations that are performed by the microprocessor or the microcontroller are stored in this memory, so that whenever the CPU requires this data, it can access this data directly from the cache memory. It has fixed length encoding of instructions. Fixed length encoding of instructions is the amount of memory that is necessary to store the instructions is almost fixed in RISC architecture. That is, majority of the instructions, they take one memory location to store. There are few instructions which take 2 memory locations and less number of instructions which take 3 memory locations to be stored. This is called fixed length encoding of instructions. And each instruction takes a single clock cycle. Most of the instructions, they take single clock cycle, only one cycle to execute. Execute more instructions in same time. More number of instructions are executed in the same time. Programs written in RISC architecture take more space in memory, but the programs which are written using this RISC architecture, they consume more space in memory. They occupy more space in memory because there are more number of instructions. To do the job, more number of instructions have to be written. So when the number of instructions increase, the memory locations in which these instructions are stored will also increase. CISC expansion is complex instruction set computer. This uses software approach. That means the control signals required for execution of the instructions are stored as set of some instructions, micro instructions in a ROM memory. Okay, so the control signals which are necessary for execution of the instructions are stored as some other instructions in a ROM memory. So these instructions which are stored in the ROM memory, they generate the control signals necessary for execution of the user instructions, our instructions. Use a single register set and less cache memory. Instruction set has variable length encoding of instructions. That is, here in CISC architecture, few instructions take one memory cycle, few of instructions take two memory cycles to be stored, and few of the instructions they take three memory locations to be stored. This is called variable length encoding of instructions. In RISC, it is fixed length encoding of instructions. In CISC, it is variable length encoding of instructions. Each instruction execution takes different number of clock cycles in CISC. Focuses on reducing the complexity of writing the program, that is more job done from each instruction. Each instruction will be able to perform more tasks, more operations, and hence the complexity will be reduced. Programs also take less space in memory. Comparison of RISC with CISC. RISC is reduced instruction set computer, CISC complex instruction set computer. Control unit is hardwired, whereas in CISC it is microprogram, that is instructions stored in ROM memory generate the control signals. RISC has multiple register set and large cache memories, whereas CISC has single register set and less cache memory. More instructions executed in one clock cycle in RISC. Execution time varies from one instruction to another in CISC. Less number of instructions in RISC and less number of addressing modes. CISC has more number of instructions and more number of addressing modes. Decoding is easier in RISC. Decoding is difficult in CISC. As I told you all, there are three stages of execution. Now tell me, students, which are these three execution phases? Which are the three execution phases of executing the instruction? Yes? Anybody? Which are the three phases of executing any instruction? Come on, students, tell me. Which are the three phases?
Fetch,
Yes,
decoding,
please.
executing.
Very good. Fetch phase, decode phase, and execute phase. Fetch phase reads the instruction, decode phase understands the instruction, and execution phase will actually execute the instruction. That is, it will perform what the instruction is meant for. Decoding of instruction is easier in RISC. Decoding is difficult in CISC. Fixed instruction format, that is, format is fixed in RISC, and variable instruction format or variable length encoding of instructions in CISC. Very few instructions refer to memory in RISC, whereas most of the instructions refer to memory in CISC. Processing speed is faster, so RISC has higher speed than the CISC. Programs are generally lengthier in size in RISC. Programs are shorter in size in CISC. In RISC, compiler design is complex. Compiler, it is compilation of high-level language to machine-level language. Translating higher-level language into machine-level language is called as compiler. Pipelining is easier in RISC. Pipelining is difficult in CISC. Pipelining is, for example, there are three instructions that are written in a program. So these three instructions will be in any one of the phases. It is either one instruction may be in fetch phase, the second instruction may be in decode phase, the third instruction may be in execution phase. So any one of these instructions will be in any one of the phases, and hence it is called as the pipelining. This concept is called as pipelining. RISC is used in high-end applications, that is whichever requires higher memory, video processing, image processing, whereas CISC is used in low-end applications such as home automation and security systems. Examples of RISC are Apple and Sun processors, whereas examples of CISC are Intel and AMD processors. Computer software, we know that a computer has two parts. Basically, one is the hardware part, the hardware that which can touch is tangible, and another one is the software part, that is a collection of programs meant for performing a meaningful task. These are the levels of software that we have. One is the hardware that we are familiar. Operating system, it is a set or collection of programs meant for operating of the system or maintenance of the system. Then we have application software and system software. Application software meant for applications of the user applications, system software again meant for the system purpose. Okay, these are the levels of software. That is it. It has IO subroutines which manipulate hardware of the system. They are meant for, so IO subroutines are smaller programs. These smaller programs, they read the characters from keyboard, write the characters to display, or read the information from the hard disk. They are written by hardware designers and usually stored in ROM memory. ROM contains startup program. What is a startup program? It is also called as bootstrap loader program. Bootstrap loader or the bootstrap. Okay, so this startup program, when you boot the microcontroller, right? When you boot the microcontroller, as you can see, when you boot the computer, right? What you are seeing there on the screen, it does all the initialization. It initializes all the memory locations. Okay, it performs some checking operations. It is called as diagnostic checking operations. Okay, and this is performed when the booting of the computer is done, when the computer is started or when the microcontroller is started. Startup program performs diagnostic checks, initializes memory. A bootloader, also known as a boot program or bootstrap loader, is a special operating system software that loads into the working memory of a computer upon startup process. Operating system is a large collection of programs to access, manage, and effectively utilize the computer resources. Application software, it is a software designed to help the user to perform specific tasks. System software, it includes operating systems. We are familiar with these operating systems like Mac operating system, Linux, Android, and Microsoft Windows. Next, moving on to 8051 architecture. Important function or the task is to become familiar with the capability of the machine. One has to become familiar with the ability of the machine, capability of the machine. If we want to learn that machine, we have to understand the ability of the machine, which includes nothing but understanding the internal hardware of that machine or the hardware of that machine, which is called as architecture of that device. Features of 8051 microcontroller. These are important features. In examination, the features of 8051 microcontroller may be asked. Remember these features. It has 8-bit CPU registers A and B, meant for performing the processing operations, right? Such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. 8-bit program status word PSW register, which has 4 flags: carry flag, auxiliary carry flag, parity flag, and overflow flag. Carry flag is meant to store the status of the carry information that is generated when we add two 8-bit numbers. Similarly, we have auxiliary carry flag, parity flag to indicate the parity, whether the number of ones are even or odd in the given data. Okay, then the overflow flag, which indicates the overflow condition. That is, if the data stored is beyond 8 bits, then it indicates the overflow condition. 8-bit stack pointer. Stack is the last in first out memory. The books that we are placing on the table, one above the another, it is an example of the last in first out memory. When we place the books, we place them one above the another, but when we want to remove the books, we remove the topmost book first. Okay, this is controlled by stack pointer, 8-bit stack pointer. 16-bit program counter and data pointer. Program counter or PC register is 16-bit, which is for storing the memory location of the instruction to be executed next. The instruction which is to be executed next, its memory location will always be stored in the program counter. And DPTR is a register used to store the external memory location. Memory location of the external memory is always stored in the DPTR register. It has 4 kilobytes of ROM memory. ROM memory is for storing the instructions or the programs. It has 4 kilobytes of ROM memory, 128 bytes of RAM memory. 128 bytes of RAM memory. So this RAM memory is for storing the data. In this RAM memory, it is consisting of 3 blocks. The first block consists of 4 register banks, each containing 8 registers. The second block, which is of 16 bytes, it is for reading and writing the single bits, bytes addressed at bit level. And the third block is of 80 bytes, which is for storing the general purpose data. general purpose data. Clear? 32 input output pins arranged as 4 8-bit ports, P0 to P3. P0, P1, P2 and P3 are the 4 ports. Each port is having 8 input output pins. 8 input output pins. Okay. So 4 into 8, totally 32 input output pins are because of these 4 ports of microcontroller. These ports are meant for inputting and outputting the data from the microcontroller. 2 16-bit timers or counters T0 and T1 to maintain the timing, to control the timing, to count the number of operations that are performed by the microcontroller, counting operation, that is the counter. Serial communication register SBUF. SBUF is a register wherein any type of serial communication, if any data is to be received into the microcontroller, it is received and stored in SBUF register first, and then it is sent to other blocks of microcontroller. And if any data is to be sent out of the microcontroller, that is stored in SBUF register first, and then from there it is sent to the required destination. Control registers, TCON, timer control register, which is meant for controlling the timing. Even TMOD register is also meant to control the timing. SCON register, serial control register for controlling the serial communication. PCON, power control register to control the baud rate, that is the rate at which the bits are transmitted or received per second. If we want to double this baud rate, then we have to use PCON register. We can do it using the PCON register so that the speed at which the bits are transmitted per second or the bits received per second speed can be doubled. IP interrupt priority register and IE interrupt enable register. These are meant for interrupts. Interrupts, I gave the example of your friend asking you a pen. Okay, so your friend is interrupting you. Similarly, when the microcontroller is interrupted by some device which is requesting for the service, microcontroller will stop whatever it is doing and provide service to that device. And then after providing service to that device, it will come back wherever it has stopped and then continue with its main execution. It has 2 external and 3 interrupts. There are totally 5 interrupts in 8051 microcontroller, 3 internal interrupts and 2 external interrupts. Oscillator and clock circuit, this is the main part. It is considered as the heart of the 8051 microcontroller because it controls all the operations. The different operations are synchronized using the oscillator and clock circuits. It possesses Boolean processing capability, that is, it operates on single bits. This is the architecture of the 8051 microcontroller, in which there are different blocks such as interrupt control block to generate the interrupts, to control the interrupts, CPU to perform the central processing operation, to perform the ALU operation, oscillator, which is for generating the oscillations, on-chip ROM memory, okay, for storing the program, bus control logic, that is, it consists of address bus and the data bus, on-chip RAM memory to store the data. It is 128 bytes, ROM memory is of 4 kilobytes. IO ports, there are 4 IO ports, P0, P1, P2, P3. Then we have serial port for serial communication. If we want to perform the serial communication transmission, then we have to activate DXD pin, transmit data pin. If we want to perform serial communication receiving of the data, then we have to activate RXD pin. Then timer 0 and timer 1 meant to perform the timing operation and the counting operations. What is the crystal frequency of 8051 microcontroller, students? Crystal frequency of 8051 microcontroller, how much it is?
1 kilohertz. 1 kilohertz.
No, it is not 1 kilohertz, it is 11.0592 megahertz. Okay, 11.0592 megahertz is the oscillation frequency or the crystal frequency of the 8051 microcontroller. Please remember this. Clear? Then coming to the pin diagram of 8051 microcontroller, the first 8 pins you can see, it is for P1.0 to P1.7, which is meant for performing input-output operations. Right? It is a dedicated port. Port 1 is a dedicated port which is meant only to perform the input-output operations. RST to stop all the activities of the microcontroller. Then Port 3 pins, P3.0 to P3.7. We'll see next. It has alternate functions, which I have indicated in the bracket. Then external 2 and external 1 are the crystal pins across which we are connecting the crystal and the capacitor to generate the oscillations. Ground pin to ground the circuit. Then port 2 pins, P2.0 to P2.7, which are meant to send the information of the higher byte of address. As I told, there is a concept called as multiplexing in 8051 microcontroller. Multiplexing means the same port pins are used for sending the data and also the address information. For example, if we consider the port 0 pins that you are seeing between the pin numbers 32 to 39, okay, port 0 pins, right? So these port 0 pins, they are meant to send the data information and also the address information. First, the lower byte of address is sent on this port 0 pins P0.0 to P0.7, right? And then higher byte of address information is sent on pin number P2.0 to P2.7. And then after, in the second cycle, in the second clock cycle, in the second memory cycle, the data information is sent on the pins P0.0 to P0.7. Clear here? So this concept is called as multiplexing. And this is enabled using the pin number 30, that is address latch enable, ALE pin. Pin number 29 is program store enable pin, which is meant for storing the data in external memory. To store the program in the external memory, we use EA bar pin, that is external access pin, and PSEN bar pin, pin number 31 and 29. If we want to read the program only from the internal memory, right, then we have to make this EA bar pin high. If you are reading the data from the only the internal memory. If you want to read the data both from internal memory and external memory, then you have to make this EA bar pin low. You have to make it low because it is active low pin, EA bar. Okay. Then VCC pin, which is for providing the supply voltage of plus 5 volts. Here VCC is plus 5 volts we are applying to the 8051 microcontroller to energize it. The same whatever I explained, they are being highlighted here. So pin number 40 is VCC, ground pin is 20, oscillator pins, reset pin, EA bar pin, PSEN, address latch enable pin, then IO ports. Clear? These are the alternate functions of port 3. For example, P3.0 is meant for receive data, okay, and also as the general input output pin. Pin 3.5 is for timer or counter 1 and also as general input output pin. Like this, we have more than one function for the pins of port 3. That is, we call them as dual function. Dual means two. It has got two functions. Each pin has got two functions of port 3. This is the memory organization in 8051. If you are connecting EA bar to 5 volts, then you are reading the program which is stored in ROM memory, internal ROM memory, and also the remaining program that you have stored from in the external program memory. But if you connect this EA bar to VSS, to ground, then you are reading the program only from the external program memory. This is RAM memory organization. It has 4 working registers, R0 to R7 in each of the register banks. There are 4 register banks, register bank 0, 1, 2, and 3. Then next is 20 to 2F memory location, which is bit addressable, wherein you can read a single bit and write the single bit. And above this memory block, between memory location 30 to 7F is the general purpose memory, which is meant to store the results of general purpose operations. Special function registers. These are various special function registers which are stored in different RAM memory locations. Accumulator is stored in memory location E0H. Then B register is stored in memory location F0H, and so on. Okay. What are these special function registers? Some of the frequently used operations of 8051 microcontroller that do not make use of the internal 128 byte RAM memory locations, right? They store the data in specific internal registers in 8051 called as special function registers. These SFRs have addresses between 80H to FFH. The RAM memory has the memory location between 00 to 7FH, whereas The special function registers are above this block of RAM memory, that is from 80H to FFH. Note that all the memory locations between 80H to FFH are not used for special function registers. There are few memory locations between 80H to FFH memory locations which are not used by the special function registers. They are called as reserved memory locations, meant for the system purpose. They are not meant for the users or the programmers. They can be accessed by the names, that is implicit addressing mode, or by their addresses, that is direct addressing mode. Addressing mode is the way in which we are reading the data stored in registers and the memory locations. Implicit means we are using the names of these registers to read the data, and direct addressing mode means we are storing the data in memory locations. Okay, and then we are accessing the data which is stored in these memory locations, which is called direct addressing mode. Some FSFRs are both byte addressable and bit addressable. Byte addressable means we can read all the 8 bits at a time, or we can write all the 8 bits at a time. Whereas bit addressable means we can read single bit at a time, or we can write single bit at a time. It is called as bit addressable. Accumulator or A register, as I told, it is the most versatile register, most frequently used register for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and Boolean bit manipulation operations. It is also used for data transfer between 805 microcontroller to external memory. Then B register, it is used along with the A register to perform the multiplication and division operations. Program status word, it is 8-bit register, consists of flags. Then stack pointer, SP register, it is a 8-bit register which stores the address of the last memory location. Suppose if you are storing the data in the stack memory, whichever data you have stored last, that last stored data memory location will be stored in the SP register. Clear? That is what we call as, it points to top of stack. DPTR is a 16-bit register used to access external code or data memory. This DPTR consists of two 8-bit registers. The higher byte of DPTR, it is called as data pointer high, DPH register, and the lower byte of DPTR, that is lower 8 bits of DPTR, is called as data pointer low or DPL register. Port registers, there are 4 port registers, P0, P1, P2, and P3. All ports are bit addressable. That is, you can read the single bit at a time, or you can write the single bit at a time. Timer registers, there are 2 timer registers, T0 and T1, timer 0 and timer 1. Timer 0 consists of again 2 8-bit registers. Timer lower byte, it is called TL1, timer TL0, timer higher byte, it is called TL0. Similarly, for the timer 1, which is of 16-bit, it is split into 2 8-bit registers. The lower byte is TH1, timer high, and upper 8 bits is timer high, lower 8 bits is timer low. Timer operation is set by the timer mode register TMOD and timer control register TCON. There are few registers meant for controlling the interrupts called as interrupt registers. 8051, as we know that it has 5 interrupts and 2 priority levels, that is higher priority and lower priority. Suppose if there are 2 interrupts requesting for service to the microcontroller, and one interrupt is having higher priority than the another, then the interrupt which is having higher priority will be serviced first, and then it will consider the providing service to the other interrupt. Interrupts can be enabled or disabled by using the registers IE, that is interrupt enable register, and interrupt priority register IP. Both these registers, IE register and IP registers, are bit addressable. Power control register PCON, this is at address 87H, and a SMOD bit in this PCON register is used to double the baud rate. The speed at which the bits are transmitted or received per second, that speed can be doubled by using the bit called as SMOD in the power control register PCON. Serial port registers, 8051 contains 8051 contains serial port for communicating with serial devices, that is SBUF register for transmitting data and receiving the data. Then the various modes of operation are controlled by a SCON register. There is a serial port control register to control the various modes of operation of the serial communication. So that's all, students. We have taken up the revision of all the classes that we had taken in the previous week. Any questions here, students? Any questions here? Questions can be taken up. Any questions from the student side? Hope you all are understood what is being revised, right? Everybody understood the revision class today? Yes,
Yes, sir.
students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then fine. Then are there any questions? Any questions here? Yes, please. Any questions? Yes. Any questions here? If you have any questions, any doubts, any clarifications, you can ask so that your doubts can be cleared. Yes, please. Any doubts here? Students? Any doubts? Yes? Yes, students, any doubts here? Yes, please. Yes, any questions here?
No, sir.
So no questions? Okay, fine. Then we'll wind up the session here. We'll continue with the next topics in our next class. Okay. Thank you.